Welcome to a new Cabital virtual discussion. Today we are hosting a talented group of leaders in the industry, such as Dr. Günther Dobrauz, partner and leader at PwC Legal in Switzerland, and the Cabital Sr money laundering reporting officer, Jonas Narbutas, connecting from Lithuania. Before we start, I want to take a minute to remind our viewers about Cabital as the trusted digital financial institution to buy, sell, and earn cryptocurrency, generating up to 12% interest a year. In addition, Cabital recently launched a business solution called Cabital Connect, which is a secure fiat on-ramp and off-ramp gateway for cryptocurrency platforms. This B2B solution it has been providing to great exchanges such as Bybit. And that is why today Cabital is delighted to host the Chief Content Officer of Bybit, Ms. Francesca to moderate this virtual discussion. Before joining the crypto space with Bybit, Ms. Francesca worked a long decade in CNBC, where she produced award-winning news programs across the channel. Welcome, Francesca, to this Cabital virtual discussion. Thanks for joining us today. How are you today?
Thank you, Carol, for the introduction. I just wanted to say again just how thrilled I am to be here with you today, along with our distinguished guests. So to all our viewers, thank you as well for joining us today. Very excited to be here.
Great. Well, thank you. Before I hand the mic over to you, Francesca, I want to remind our audience one last thing, to watch the full video discussion all across our social media channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can find us as Cabital or Cabital at Cabital Global for Twitter. So now, Francesca, the mic is all yours. Have a great discussion.
Thanks again, Carol, and I'm so happy to actually be shining the spotlight on the experts themselves. Joining us today from Europe, we've got Dr. Günther Dobrauz, partner with PwC in Zurich, leader of PwC Legal Switzerland, and a member of the PwC Global Legal Leadership Team, directing the firm's global legal practice. Wow, it's so amazing, comprising of 4,000 lawyers and more in over 90 countries. Before PwC, Dr. Dobrauz held a similar position in another Big Four firm. So very impressive credentials there, Dr. Dobrauz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with you today. Dr. Dobrauz is also a trusted advisor to governments, international organizations, and supervisory authorities on creating new regulatory frameworks. And our second speaker is Jonas Narbutas, Senior Money Laundering Reporting Officer and board member of Cabital. Prior to joining Cabital, Jonas had over a decade of experience within various senior compliance level positions in Western Union, Lithuania, and other financial institutions. Gentlemen, welcome. Now, cryptocurrencies, big topic of late, past few years. It's been in the news headlines recently as well, with Bitcoin in demand in places like Russia and beyond, on the back of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. When it comes to pulse check and prices, Bitcoin jumped more than 14%, I think, mid-March, and have stood to gain double-digit percentage growth since the day before the conflict started back in February. US stocks also made gains, but smaller, with the S&P 500 edging up about 3% or so, and the MSCI World Index was also dampened slightly on the news. Things are never that simple, of course. Still quite interesting to see Bitcoin, its safe haven chops still being unclear. Some people saying that the king of crypto often behaves more like risk-on assets, such as stocks. And according to investors, during the heightened conflict, Bitcoin's characteristics have increased demand for the crypto asset. It actually helped to outperform some other traditional havens. We're talking about gold being up about 2%, while the US 10-year Treasury yields actually falling about 8% or so in the last week of March. Yet the moves may do little to settle arguments over Bitcoin's safe haven credentials. The debate continues really among analysts. So let's get to my burning questions, guys, with you, the experts on the ground. With Bitcoin being so volatile, Jonas, I'll start the question with you. Do you think that it should be considered a safe haven?
Well, it's just another way of investment and diversifying your portfolio. So volatility cannot be avoided in any kind of investment. As any news, any conflict, or any change in politics, economics, or you name it, can impact the price volatility. I guess would be that short.
Dr. Günther, opening statement from you.
Well, it's my personal view rather than PwC's, right? And I believe that the future will be decentralized and it has to be circular, by the way. But that's maybe another thing we can dive into. And in that view, I do believe that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies do have an effect that will, in the long run, be protecting the holders of it. Real question is just how long and when, right? So there's also the inflation we're seeing on a daily basis there. So I think if you're betting on it, like you're putting everything in there, I wouldn't do that. But in the long run, I think it has to be protected.
Right. And I do know for personal experience and for a fact that the primary benefits for cryptocurrencies is that it makes kind of cross-border financial transactions much faster, cheaper, and definitely more secure. So in the wake of recent conflict, some US congressmen and women have been saying that Russia could use crypto to evade economic sanctions imposed by the West. Is that true? And how does that actually work?
So yeah, I can start, I guess, Francesca, right? So at least from the articles and news that I have heard last few weeks, these are, I believe, the same people that are against crypto in general. So of course, they will use any setting for them to support their existing views about crypto, right? But again, everyone needs to be aware of such kind of possibility and analyze, investigate the conflict and escalate to regulators internally or to service providers such as chain analysis to flag certain wallets or platforms as unfriendly, report activity to regulators, or decline payments if suspicion is detected, right? Also, blockchain analytics software such as chain analysis that we here at in Capital are using can mitigate this risk. It allows Capital and other platforms to clearly identify transactional risks, which is accomplished through comprehensive databases and automated fund flow mapping that emanate even beyond their immediate counterparties that our customers are transacting with. So compare these analytics with traditional wire transfers where financial institutions are able to only identify their immediate senders and recipients of funds. It is clear that cryptocurrency transactions are actually more transparent and traceable. So far, such possibility is not likely, I would say, and broadly possible. And if looking from traditional finance institution perspective, such is also possible as volumes and customer behaviors might be changing as per conflict, and something might be left out and not spotted, right? So would not say that this is of major concern at this stage here in Europe or globally in general, but as always, of course, needs to be monitored closely.
Well,
Dr.
put it
Günther.
simply, KYC and AML apply, right? So you have to check everybody that is behind it. Obviously, I would assume that if this becomes a strategic plan, it would be done in a very smart way. But this is where the financial intermediaries are called to action and where they need to apply it.
Right. Speaking of, the space, Ukraine has legalized cryptocurrencies, and they have played quite a major role in funding its government during the conflict. In your opinion, can Ukraine be considered a model in how to accept and use cryptocurrencies as donations? Is it something that other nations could or even would follow?
I guess I
Jonas?
guess I will continue. So from one side, I would say yes, and from another side, I would also say no. Right? Let me explain myself here in more details. So no is because it is being done so fast and swiftly, and in today's kind of setting that the Ukraine as a country is going through, right? So potentially might be many mistakes made in the process, we'd say, or something missed. In addition, because the country is at war, it will most likely not be able to put in place appropriate processes and controls to ensure that the sources of donations are from legitimate sources, right? From another side, I would say yes, as again, the purpose of this is mainly, I believe, because all kinds of funding is needed. So Ukraine wants to have another source of income that will and does support the fight. So in this kind of environment, such move is welcome, I would say, and can be taken as a model, which can be implemented by other countries across European organizations, as it will be tested out in real life, in conflict settings, and also after some time has passed, everyone will be able to analyze pluses and minuses of the situation. So
Can only agree with that.
Indeed, indeed. All right, I guess I'll shift gears now and let's, I guess, place our eyes on hedging against inflation. Bitcoin often being seen by citizens of countries with unstable fiat as a store of value to protect against hyperinflation. Although unlike fiat currencies, cryptocurrencies cannot be, or it's very difficult for it to be influenced per se to the same extent by changing interest rates and quantitative easing, something very much on investors' minds of late. Now, it's important to note that Bitcoin's supply will never exceed 21 million, which makes it an attractive store of value that is resistant really to inflation. And so while Bitcoin has surged in popularity over the past few years, the crypto market's volatile nature continues to be a polarizing topic. Now, I guess I'll start with Dr. Günther this time. How would you describe, I guess, in the space where crypto, how would crypto, I guess, support citizens from countries that are experiencing hyperinflation, for example, Venezuela?
Right. Well, I think we have to take a step back when we think about those ideas, right? Bitcoin is the first real application of the blockchain technology, right? And we are now in its 14th, 15th year coming up and so forth, which sounds like a lot, but it isn't really, right? I mean, we've built this entire system around it, and a lot has happened, right? So it does work to some degree, but we're not quite there yet. And that is what we're seeing with all the fluctuations going on there. But as I said at the very beginning, I think in the long-term run, if everything plays out, obviously, and there's a lot of countries involved in this one, I hope that it does fulfill that purpose. Right now, what you're seeing is sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? Now, that is a Swiss view, right? Obviously, when you talk about countries like the ones you mentioned, obviously, for them, whatever happens to Bitcoin is kind of okay compared to the national currencies sometimes and so forth. So there it might help. But again, as I always, I'm not giving financial advice, but when I'm talking to people, I say, look, don't put all your money in it because there's a high risk that you're losing it, right? So it's basically only the money you can live without, right? So I think you have to be very, very careful in what you're doing. Bitcoin being a starting point, obviously there's generations 2, 3, 4 of currencies coming up. So in the short run, I think in the long-term run, it will work out. But right now, I would be very careful to do it.
yeah, also kind of admit the value of customers' hard-earned income on a daily basis, and it would not lose value due to inflation, right? Of course, the locations that do accept it as a payment method are still scarce, and then yeah, people should be careful, right? But using some of the bolivars to convert to crypto and invest and receive passive income could preserve the value of the person's earnings.
Yeah, but on this topic about Bitcoin historically being said to be a hedge against inflation. We're seeing the United States, for example, inflation being over 7% at record highs. And we are seeing very similar rates of inflation in Europe and I guess several other parts of the world. Yet Bitcoin has not really, I guess, matched up in terms of performance. Why do you think this is the case? And is Bitcoin really, really a hedge against inflation? Dr. Günther.
Well, as I said before, yes, I do think it is. The question is the timeline you apply, right? I have the lucky position to live in Switzerland, to have a good income, and yes, I can allocate some money to crypto, and I've been doing so for some years. And yes, there is this idea that is an inflation protection. Is it on the long run? I don't know, right? There's so many factors going on. I personally think yes, it is, but whether it is, we have this scenario now going on between Russia and the Ukraine, which is obviously heavily affecting everybody. There's a lot of countries getting into that, and we still don't have a consensus on whether it's going to survive or not. If you ask me personally, yes, I do believe it is. Will it be right or not? I don't know.
Yeah, from my side, as the world is still running on traditional currency, so we all do depend on this traditional finance and have to cope with the high inflation rates, especially in the face of military conflicts. This potential will have impact going forward as well, right? When the world will agree on how to deal with or use crypto, regulate, ban, as some countries did, or in what means to use it, then this could be coped with in a broader sense, I would say. So now believe that some investors want to monitor the situation. Some who are new to crypto markets still potentially have doubts, as there are contradicting information available for everyone, or as we are targeting from Capital Sr European countries, they are possibly putting investments on hold, at least for so people in such situations do tend to be more careful and observe first prior taking any actions, I would say. So this also potentially does have an impact to why Bitcoin is currently more or less stable. And although eventually the number of Bitcoins, as you mentioned, Francesca, right, is limited, it does not receive such attention as it has been over a few last years, I would say.
Right. And Jonas, you earlier mentioned the use case of crypto, and I guess more specific for Bitcoin. El Salvador was the very first country to legalize Bitcoin. Yet the world is still, in a watch and see mode to see the impact or, I guess, measurable results coming out from this move. Only about 15% or so of businesses have onboarded Bitcoin payment. In fact, I think Bitcoin is really far off from where the country was when it was buying the dip, quote unquote, if I may say so. So do you see any risk in countries adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender? And on the other hand, what really are the benefits of it?
I guess I would be more conservative on this. And if we would look around the world, we would see that major economies or major countries are not considering to implement it as a legal tender, at least not just yet, right? The countries are analyzing, going through regulations and setting up a framework first to actually be able to go this way, let's say in this way, but not vice versa, that let's implement and see how it goes. Don't want to say that El Salvador is using this as a more of a marketing thing or to replace the more traditional currencies and means of payment, or to provide more payment solutions, but same as it is when you are building the house, for example. First you have to make solid foundations, so it would hold the house, and only then start building the walls, the roof, and etc. So by having strong fundamentals, this could take off, and then who knows how high the roof can be built for it, right? And the benefit of it is for people having one other tool to actually invest in, store value of currency, which is not depending on governments and central banks, to avoid currency value decrease as per inflation. So just recently, we have added Swiss franc to our options of fiat payments here in Capital, and have been offering euros and GBP options for for some time already, with more traditional currencies yet to come. So this is allowing and would say would allow our customers to top up their wallets easier and in simpler way, and to convert more and more funds in different currencies to crypto to enjoy the benefits of crypto market, avoid inflation volatility, and to follow the market globally to see how this legalization is developing.
Well, I think it was a bit of a surprising move, but in a good way, right? If you see countries moving in there. Now, obviously, we need to get the real countries, and I'm not saying it's not a real country, but they're important countries from an economic perspective, right? To do that. And if one of those would follow suit, then I think the impact would be major. Am I hoping for it? Yeah, I would like it, right? Will it happen? Again, I think we have to wait and see a little bit.
Yeah, it really is a very interesting, and we're still really very much early in this discussion. I wish we had more time to dive into more aspects of this topic, but I do want to allocate enough time to talk about crypto in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Even during the second year of the pandemic, countries across the world are still struggling with the virus in various ways. At best, I think figuring out what a new normal with this would look like. Countries are just beginning to open up, and some are still seeing a surge in cases. So many people have lost jobs even during this pandemic while economies were hit. So I would like to talk about crypto in the area of income generation, if we could. Jonas, how can crypto help people earn money? Any ways to make passive income from it?
I might be biased for this question, but with the traditional financial institutions offering very low rates of returns when adjusted for inflation from the investments that they control or conduct, then such platforms as our Cabital are becoming bigger players in the market, right? And can provide solutions for the investors or people looking to earn money and diversify their portfolios or receive higher returns. So passive income and return of 10-12% can be a solution in such high inflation times. And with our increasing option of fiat currencies, more customers from different jurisdictions can actually enjoy this.
Well, again, I would add we're still at the beginning of this journey, right? So originally it was a buy and hold kind of situation, people really believing in the asset class, buying it and just holding it and going through everything, but ultimately up, right? I think this is then developed, and staking obviously has become a super interesting area. We're seeing funds in a also more traditional way, but also with kind of signals they are using and so forth. So kind of everything we know in the classical sphere plus new ways are being played out, and depending on the money you can contribute, I think the options are just expanding every day.
Right, and both of you mentioned this aspect of staking. Now, during the pandemic, the virus has compelled many governments to do quantitative easing, pretty much causing the value of people's money to drop. So how does staking, or I guess depositing tokens, help to hedge against this move? Jonas, maybe you could start.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So basically, I would say that it helps to maintain the value of the tokens and also to receive return, which is still better than traditional financing tools can offer. For example, inflation is getting higher, meaning that with the amount you can buy less, or if you have savings held in your depository account, the value of the money is decreasing. So with crypto and up to 12% return that Cabital is currently offering, I would say this is a good opportunity to be ahead of inflation and to not lose your savings as per inflation or other centralized means of controlling the inflation or money printing.
Again, I can only agree, right? It's a rather new way of doing it, very interesting, and especially when you look at the rates that are being offered and compare that to the current inflation rates, it's quite attractive.
Dr. Günther, actually, I would like to tap on perhaps your expertise here. Do you think that when it comes to buying, holding, and staking crypto, could it become whether the next big thing or just really being in the spotlight when it comes to wealth management? Yes, no, and why?
Well, I think the really interesting thing comes about the tokenization of things, because ultimately we want to get more into a bankable universe, right? Because 99% of people are still classically banking, right? And we've managed to onboard, depending on the country you're in and so forth, some of the classical cryptocurrencies. But what it really, really offers, if it goes in the way we think it will be that everything around us will be tokenized, right? And then you basically start to apply the classical things that all the wealth managers and asset managers are using today, but within an enlarged universe, right? If today I want to invest in real estate, well, I can buy a house or maybe two, but that's kind of it. But with tokenization, I can basically invest in every house that I like for special reasons, right? It's just one idea, right? And so forth. So again, I'm talking about a number of years down the road. But I think that is what really keeps me awake, right? Just seeing how people are thinking about all the possibilities that are coming. NFTs obviously being one first move in this area.
Yeah, to add on top of this, I would say yes. And again, this is one of the ways to diversify your personal investments from the risk perspective, to have more options where to invest and receive returns. Also, crypto is still, as we already mentioned from time, is still relatively new compared to traditional currencies. So there are still many options on how this payment, storing, earning method to be utilized and where. So, for example, settlements in crypto are still not as much and widely accepted for services received or made. So it does have many potential to become next big thing, and also to be tested in all sorts of environments, conflict zones, legal tender for right payments, and etc.
Yeah, we are really at a very exciting and early stage of things going on. I would like to touch a little bit on stablecoins such as USDT, people being able to earn up to 12%, I think, a year from the crypto, while savings accounts are offering something along the lines of 0.05%, sometimes 1% on a good day, a year tops. How do crypto savings platforms offer their users so much return on their stable coins? Jonas, I do want to start this question with you. What's your view on this?
So stablecoins such as USDT have a lot of demand in lieu of their peg against their USD, right? And the number of use cases in the crypto world. For example, by moving value to USDT, a trader may reduce their risk of exposure to a sudden drop in the price of their cryptocurrencies, right? This makes the demand for stablecoins high in general. As crypto saving platforms lend out their customers stablecoin balances on DeFi lending platforms, they would thus be in a position to demand for a higher interest rate due to high demand of such stablecoins, right? With this, they are able to pass on the high interest rates for customers.
Yeah, I think
Dr. Günther.
sorry, I was just about to say that there's a lot of interest, obviously. One main question mark that is still out there is regulation, right? And how you kind of get that all sorted on a global level. Will we see that? Very difficult, because on global level, we don't have one banking regime, we don't have one insurance regime, whatever. So I'm not expecting to have one regime for that. But at least we need to understand what is going on in the US, what is going on in Europe, what is going on in Asia, and how do we bring all of that together. Once we have that, I think, again, the sky is the limit.
That really is one area to watch. Indeed. Jonas, sorry, did you have anything to add there?
No, that's fine. We can proceed.
Cool. Yeah, speaking of which, I do believe we only have time for one last question. Where did the time go? Indeed. But here goes. When do you... So first of all, Bitcoinization, the term used to describe the point at which Bitcoins become the default value system of the economy. When do you think that might occur, and is it even possible?
Yeah.
If I,
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if I may, Dr. Günther, I would want to put you on the spot here. We'll get to hear your views, and in a bit we'll hear from Jonas.
Well, again, it's my personal view, right? So if you look on my LinkedIn, it says the future is decentralized. The real question, when is that, right? Will it happen? Well, I do really hope, because most of our problems, they come from the centralization, which is not a bad thing. This is how we drove all of the economy and so forth in the past. But if you look at all the problems we're having now, I think that decentralization will solve that. And it's platforms. And at the end of the day, also Bitcoin is kind of a platform, if you want, but it's a supranational, right? It's people from all over the world participating, not thinking about countries and so forth. So yes, I personally hope that it will happen, and I hope that it will happen very soon. But on the other hand, we have all of those, historical companies and so forth standing around who need to adapt to that one way or the other. So I hope that it's tomorrow, but it won't be, right? It probably will be in 10 years, or God, we will see, right?
Yeah, so the way I wanted to open the question was basically simply, wow, that is a far-reaching question, right? And believe no one has the right answer, at least not just yet, I would say. I believe for now we should focus on regulating it, allowing it to be more widely used and of course understood, right? Creating platforms for it to be used as a payment method. So of course, cannot say it is not possible, but we are only taking initial steps, and I believe the grounds need to be created first to actually think of it as default value system, right? But maybe someone does have, of course, a better answer to this somewhere, and I might be wrong. Of course, the conditions, markets, people, and capabilities are much more advanced and ahead compared to conditions and times the traditional currencies were being implemented, right? So in this situation, I will be more conservative with my answer.
I do like to, end sessions on a hopeful and positive note. So thank you both for that. Wrapping up the discussion, I do want to thank both Dr. Dobrauz and as well as Jonas Narbutas for joining us and sharing insightful comments. Also, I want to thank all of you, the viewers, for joining us and adding your comments and questions in the chat box. We really do appreciate hearing from you, and we look forward to our next session again. My name is Francesca, Chief Content Strategist at Bybit. It's been such a pleasure, and I do look forward to next time. Carol, over to you.
Thank you so much for the three of you for joining us today. You are more than welcome to join us anytime soon here to Cabital Digital discussions. Have a good day. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching us today. And again, I just want to finalize this session with reminding all of our viewers and all of our users as well that we are accepting CHF. You can buy, sell, and earn crypto by depositing directly for your bank accounts. So for the people watching us in Switzerland, you are welcome to start using Cabital as well. So have a great day, and we'll see you in the next session.